Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are jumping into a really fascinating but highly complex set of sources.
Yeah, it's a story defined by a pretty stark contrast.
It really is. We're analyzing the verifiable facts of a sensational international crime figure, Joran van der Sloot.
But right alongside that, we're looking at this rigorous academic study that measures the cold, hard economic impact his initial infamy had on Aruba.
It's truly a study of dual realities. On one side, you have this awful human tragedy, the global media frenzy, and then later, definitive proof of murder.
And on the other, you have quantitative data, just numbers, and those numbers answer a very specific question.
Which is, did all that intensely negative media coverage around the 2005 disappearance of Natalee Holloway actually damage Aruba's economy?
An economy that is, and this is the crucial part, almost entirely dependent on tourism.
I mean, 85% of Aruba's entire economy. When you hear headlines screaming, boycott Aruba, the fear from their government must have been immense.
Oh, completely rational. They were expecting ruin. But the findings, they're highly counterintuitive.
So our mission today is to first establish the necessary background, sort of the timeline of his criminal life.
Right, which culminates in that 2010 murder in Peru. Then we'll pivot to the economic study, which suggests that the sensational headlines and the financial reality were almost completely decoupled.
Okay, let's start with the man at the center of all this. Van der Sloot was born in the Netherlands, but he moved to Aruba as a kid.
And he had, a pretty prominent family. His father was a well-known lawyer, his mother an art teacher.
On the surface, he was an honor student, a competitive athlete in tennis and soccer, the whole package, it seemed.
That was the veneer, absolutely. But our sources show that even his own mother called him a habitual liar.
A liar with a compulsive gambling problem.
Yes, sneaking out at night to hit the casinos. And this pattern just got way, way worse about 5 years after the Holloway incident.
So 2010 becomes this major turning point.
It is. In February of that year, his father, Paulus, dies suddenly of a heart attack. He was only 57.
And Joran returns to Aruba, and that's when the gambling and the mental instability just skyrockets.
His mother was so worried by his behavior. He'd even written a note saying he blamed himself for his father's death.
So she was actually making plans to have him involuntarily committed.
She was. But before she could act, he was gone. Left a short note, "I'm gone, do not worry."
And just a few months later, he pops up again.
Right. He enters Peru from Colombia on May 14th, 2010, supposedly for a poker tournament.
And this is what sets the stage for the crime that finally put him behind bars for good.
And here's a detail that is it's impossible to ignore. The murder of Stephanie Flores happened on May 30th, 2010.
Which was the exact 5th anniversary of Natalee Holloway's disappearance.
To the day.
So Stephanie Tatiana Flores Ramirez, she was only 21, a business student about to graduate.
And like him, she came from a well-known family. Her father, Ricardo Flores, was a prominent businessman, had even run for political office in Peru.
Police reports were able to piece together their last hours pretty meticulously.
They did. Surveillance video confirmed they were playing poker at the Atlantic City Casino in Lima on May 29th.
She was winning that night, but he wasn't.
And they were then seen on camera together entering Hotel TAC, room 309, around 3 in the morning.
The documentation from there is just stark. Her beaten body was found 3 days later.
In that room, which was registered in his name. And he had just fled. Didn't even return the key.
The physical evidence pointed to just extreme brutality.
A tennis racket was found in the room. The coroner identified it as a possible homicide weapon.
And when they finally caught him, he confessed.
He did, reportedly. He said, "I did not want to do it. The girl intruded into my private life. I grabbed her by the neck and hit her."
He also claimed he was high on marijuana.
Right. And what's really telling is the evidence of his escape plan. He told investigators he thought about using a suitcase to get rid of the body.
But decided against it because he thought he might get stopped at the front desk.
I mean, the calculation in that moment. And it was immediate. Peruvian police went through his laptop.
And they found searches made after Flores was already in the room with him.
Exactly. He wasn't just browsing. He was searching for things like the relationship between the Peruvian and Chilean police, Chilean border pass, and countries that do not extradite in Latin America.
So he was already planning his getaway, showing this clear, calculating mind in the middle of all that chaos.
Absolutely. And this, of course, brings everything full circle right back to the Natalee Holloway case.
The FBI was all over the Peruvian investigation. They wanted any information they could get on Holloway, and especially on the alleged extortion of her family.
They even gave the Peruvian police a copy of van der Sloot's laptop hard drive.
And later, From prison, he actually admitted to it.
Yep. In an interview, he confirmed he extorted the Holloway family. It just confirmed the whole dark trajectory.
Once he was locked up in the Del Castro prison, the global attention didn't really stop. It warped.
It's so bizarre. He started getting fan mail.
From women all over the world, mostly from the U.S. and the Netherlands.
Multiple marriage proposals. One woman apparently wanted to have his child. It just cemented this dark, twisted notoriety he had.
Logistically, though, the case itself was kind of a mess.
It faced a lot of delays. Part of the problem was just finding an official Spanish to Dutch interpreter in Peru.
And you have to remember, the legal context is different. Peru doesn't have the same right to a speedy trial we have. They can hold someone for up to 18 months just for interrogation.
So, okay. We've established the man, the liar, the gambler, the confirmed murderer. It's so easy to get lost in the human tragedy of it all.
It is. But our sources demand we now look at the stark inverse, the quantitative reality this all had on the place where it first started.
We're switching gears completely now. We're diving into this academic study focused purely on the tourism economics of Aruba.
And just to reiterate the stakes here, we're talking about a tiny island, 181 square miles, where 85% of the economy depends on people visiting.
After Natalee Holloway disappeared in May 2005, the headlines were just relentless. Boycott Aruba. The government was genuinely panicked about a disastrous outcome.
So the study asked a very direct question. How did this incident affect tourist inflow to Aruba?
And they looked at the three most important markets: the U.S., Venezuela, and the Netherlands. Together, that's 85% of their tourism.
The methodology here is really the key. They used a quantitative model that looked specifically at stayover visitors.
Right, not just the cruise ship passengers who were there for a few hours.
They accounted for the usual economic stuff, GDP, inflation, and then they added a specific dummy variable to represent the start of the Natalee Holloway incident in June 2005.
And this is it. This is the moment where the data just completely shatters the narrative.
The analysis was definitive. The Natalee Holloway incident did not have a statistically measurable impact on the number of tourist stayovers
from any of the three major markets.
That is genuinely hard to believe. You have a global media firestorm, boycott demands, a total trashing of Aruba's image, and the data shows no significant economic dent.
I know. How does that much negative press translate to zero measurable impact?
How do they explain it?
Well, the finding is robust. The Natalee variable was statistically insignificant across all three models. The study suggests a few reasons. One is that a lot of American visitors to Aruba are repeat travelers.
So they have established vacation patterns.
Exactly. Their habits likely weren't disrupted by a story about one specific local crime. And for the Venezuelan market, many visitors are there for short-term shopping trips. The crime story was just less relevant to their purpose.
But I have to ask, couldn't the model have missed something? I mean, even if there's no immediate drop, maybe it deterred new visitors or caused some kind of slower, delayed decline?
That's a fair question about the limits of any data model, but this one accounted for a lot of time series factors that usually pick up on those trends. And more importantly, when the researchers compared the Holloway incident to other negative events, they found what did move the needle.
Okay, so what did cause tourism numbers to drop in Aruba?
9/11. The September 11th terrorist attacks. That event was statistically significant for Aruban stayovers across all three markets.
Unlike the Holloway case.
Exactly. And this strongly suggests that what tourists really fear is systemic disruption, the safety of air travel itself. That's a much bigger fear than an isolated criminal event on the ground.
And if we look at the other crimes mentioned in the analysis, we see this pattern play out elsewhere, right?
We do. For instance, the Miami murder spree in the early 90s, where tourists were specifically targeted, that did cause a severe downturn. German and British markets dropped off a cliff.
And it took them 3 years aggressive PR to recover.
So targeted crime against tourists in a major hub. Massive sustained damage. And on the flip side, for small islands, the effect can also be devastating. The 1972 Fountain Valley Massacre in St. Croix. It took them almost 10 years to recover.
So small islands are vulnerable to crime fallout. But for some reason, the intense focus on Sloot and Holloway just didn't replicate that same economic devastation for Aruba's main markets.
It just didn't.
So to synthesize this whole deep dive, we've confirmed the detailed chronology of a serial liar, a gambler, and a murderer.
A murderer whose crimes were all tied together by an eventual confession to extorting the Holloway family.
And yet we have this just stunning quantitative finding that the initial media frenzy, the highly personalized nature of the Holloway case, it didn't translate into a measurable economic decline for Aruba.
What really stands out when you put these two realities side by side is the sheer volume of media coverage for one visible individual threat.
Versus the cold, hard numbers that only seem to move when there's an invisible systemic risk, like the total shutdown of air travel after 9/11.
And that really raises an important question for you to think about. When people make big decisions, like international travel, are they genuinely influenced by the sensational media story around a single tragic local crime?
Or are they actually prioritizing a much more fundamental assessment of safety? The data here strongly suggests that the fear of a systemic risk like just being able to get to your destination safely is the factor that really dictates behavior, no matter how tragic or visible the individual crime story is.